What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Breaking down podcasts. So I've been doing the series, the podcast, How to Podcast series, and I've moved on from that. I kind of gave you the basics on how to start a podcast, how to record your podcast. I broke down the different studios that I've had through my time podcasting. Now I'm going to go through and talk about individual podcasts from podcasts that I'm clearly a fan of. I'm going to break down their production, what they do that maybe other podcasts aren't doing. Just kind of give you a flavor for what's out there. If you're looking to start podcasting and maybe you just haven't, you're not that familiar with that many podcasts, it's going to give you a few different looks because there's a lot of ways to do podcasts, a lot of ways to record it, a lot of ways to put it out there. And I'm going to try and give you a nice selection of different shows and how they do it. Starting off with Ari Shaffir's Skeptic Tank, which he's been doing for a very long time. I don't know exactly when he started. I want to say maybe between 2010, 2012. I want it's probably closer to 2012. Brian Redband started producing it for him, one of the many Death Squad podcasts over the years. And very simple podcasts where Ari Shaffir would have a guest on, and he would talk to that guest over a specific topic. A lot of his guests happen to be stand-up comedians, which lends itself well to having good conversations, but not all of them. He's had, people who are rowing the Atlantic. He's had people that travel. He himself, Ari Shaffir, has been into traveling over the past years and has shared his adventures on his podcast. So he started off with Red Band, then went on his own, had made a declaration on his podcast that he would release a new episode every Monday, which he did and stuck to it for many years up until the point at which he just disappeared and took a very long break from everything that he did, stand-up comedy, his show, and he just put out a special. So he went and started traveling. And since then, it's come out irregularly. But the thing that he did that really helped him and helped his podcast grow, which is something that I recommend all podcasts do, is to stick to a regular schedule. Weekly is a great schedule. Bi-weekly is tougher. If you have a really great podcast, like you're doing a Sword and Scale, and you can get away with, doing one every other week. But weekly is really great. Daily is always kind of the golden kind of thing to shoot for. It's something that YouTubers recommend all the time. A lot of them do daily videos. So to help grow your audience, having just a regular schedule in general helps, which Ari did on Mondays. The structure of his show is really basic. He uses an H4n similar to me, 2 microphones. If he has guests on, he uses a splitter, but it's always portable and no video. It's audio only. Episodes can range anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, so it's a longer form podcast. He starts off with there's no intro music, there's none of that. It's very much just either him talking with a guest, or music that he's selected for that specific episode that goes along with the theme of the episode. So it usually starts off with a little teaser audio, maybe less than a minute, 30 seconds, whatever, a little snippet from a conversation within the podcast, something to get the listener enticed and hooked. It's like, ooh, how the fuck are they talking about that crazy random thing? Then it usually breaks into clip from music, little music clip, and then Ari does his intro, which is almost in itself just a one-man podcast where he just kind of updates everybody on things that are going on, thoughts that he's had. He also reads any sponsorships in that time, which is kind of just a solo podcast / intro section. Then he'll introduce the podcast, introduce the guest, and roll into another song before playing, actually getting into the conversation with the guest. And the conversations, he tries to have a specific topic, and for the most part does a good job of staying on topic, but it is also interesting how, conversations, as any good conversation that is something that's you're taking a long time with, can go off on tangents and lead in different ways. So it's nice that he allows for some flexibility when he's going through the topics. And then sometimes it's not at all on topic, but for the most part, he nails it where it's on topic, and they're comedians a lot of the time, so they're funny. Great conversation. So if you're looking to listen to some of Ari's podcasts, definitely go through the list of podcasts. You also go to his website, arishaffir.com or arithegreat.com. Both will take you to the same website. It has all of his tour information and everything else that he does, but it's also where you can find the podcast, maybe search for a specific episode or specific guest that you're looking for. Of course, he'll be on all the podcast applications like iTunes and Stitcher and Laughable. So if you're looking to listen to any of those podcasts, then, for sure, go search back into the archives. If there's any breaks, there's no editing really in his podcast. Sometimes he'll take breaks if it's, a two-parter, if it's like on a road trip and it's, part of it's them driving to a place and then the other part's a day later, them at the place. Like there's different podcasts that may jump in time and there'll be breaks there, and he'll add music in between those breaks. And then after the episode, another song, and then he'll have a little outro, maybe some dates that he's looking at, whatever, it's usually pretty short outro, and then he'll end on generally a full song, and all the music in the episode is related to the topic, and he chooses it. He does all the editing himself. He doesn't have a producer as far as I know. And then before he puts his podcast out on Twitter, he'll give a shout out to people who do Photoshop, like myself, and he'll ask for a Photoshop to be done. And then if he selects yours to be used for that episode artwork, he'll pay the artist, which nobody does that, as far as I know, for podcast episode artwork that use Photoshops. People do Photoshops for a lot of podcasts, but I know Ari pays. I've been honored to have been selected for many of my designs, have been selected for many of his podcasts. I haven't done them lately just because I just haven't had time, and I didn't have Twitter on my phone, which is how I'd be notified. So I have fallen off of doing the Photoshops. I've had other things more pressant to handle, and I think he usually asks for them on Sundays, and that's when I record. But that is neither here nor there. Ari Shaffir's podcast, great podcast. I think he does it more regularly now on Mondays. He's gotten back to his schedule. But go subscribe everywhere. Ari Shaffir's Skeptic Tank. And that's kind of the basic breakdown of how he does his show. And this show that you're watching right now comes out every day. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are found. Binge the show over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Go to inspireddisorder.com for all of my work. And if you want to buy any of my work, my artwork, t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now, save 50% when you use coupon code THANKS18 at checkout. That's thanks and the number 18, and you'll save 50% on everything I have for sale over at inspireddisorder.com. I'm at Ray Taylor on all social media. Have a great day, everybody. Peace out.